All right, we were hearing booms, but not expecting the pirate ship at this hour of the day. It's like...
This is different.
This is like 10:30 on a Saturday morning.
They're attacking Puerto Vallarta with their cannons.
Hi, this is Ada.
And this is Stefan.
And welcome to Living Simply in Mexico.
All right, so today we're going to talk about a few things. One is our moving of houses to our first house for a bit, and also some Q&A at the end of this video that talks about some of the Q&A that we've received in our Facebook group, Living Simply in Mexico. So thank you very much for that.
So some of you guys might be wondering why we moved. And well, we moved back here to our small house because we had a retreat, a real retreat, Pilates retreat at our big house. And my colleague and friend Nancy Myers, who does a lot of work with Pilates teachers, gait walking, was able to have it there. And it was really, it was awesome for everybody.
One of the things that we're planning is how to utilize our large house as a gathering place. And it was really good, except for an iguana.
All right, so my poor cleaning lady just got scared. We have a baby iguana. I don't know, Mama is somewhere. But it was earlier was up above, but I think it's coming down and looking to see where she can find Mama. Iguana is part of the fun. I actually had written out a kind of a list of sort of, you know, things to know, and I included a critter section. For the chachalacas and iguanas. We'll put the text of what this thing is called, but it's a black iguana. And it was a mama and a baby, and the baby fell into our fountain. And
from above.
So, from above, and Mama was looking down, and so the baby's still running around in there. We've been throwing out some arugula and fruit and stuff.
Luckily, Nancy knows how to deal with iguanas, and she was like moving it around. In fact, it got stuck on our window at one point, and she picked it up and moved it over. So
Nancy used to have a retreat center in Yalapa, so she's dealt with many iguanas in her life. While we have spent time in both houses, after spending quite a bit of time in the new house over on the other side of Gringo Gulch, we realize what just a 7-minute walk makes in terms of what our perspective is and what we do and what we really have appreciated in each of the different parts of Puerto Vallarta. You know,
when some people ask us, well, what area would you recommend us living in? Literally, our houses are 5 to 7 minutes apart, and they have very, very different experiences. So if you can imagine what a half mile would be like in that case. So you need to take a look at each of the areas that you're interested in and really spend some time there before you really know what place is great for you. This house here, I mean, you can see behind us, we have the view. We are kind of right in the center of Puerto Vallarta, and what that means is that we are so much more connected to what's happening down at the Malecon. In El Centro,
and down at the Los Arcos down there, where they have the open air amphitheater. Sitting in the hot tub, listening to the city radio, which would be, I think, the dance festival. I think the folk dance festival.
This last week they had a huge cultural festival, and they had for days upon days, in the afternoon and the evenings, dancers from all around Mexico that would come in, and that was a really cool experience. Right?
Yeah, that was definitely a highlight.
If you're south of the Rio Quale, that seems to be more, Canadian U.S. tourist focused. And then once you get over the bridge, and especially at night, when you go to the center there where they have all the activities, and further north, that tends to be more of a local Mexican tourist crowd that we found. And so what's really interesting about that is not only do you have those cultural events, but you also have events at Plaza de Armas, which is people just go out and they have like the local food, and they have dancing. And
we got more food options.
Still can't believe that sunset.
The sunset that's Yeah, and they were just playing away, and people were having a great time. There was a woman that was in a wheelchair there, and there was her person, just dancing with her, and it was very festive.
Yeah, and then of course Ada got her ice cream this week down there, which is always a go-to.
Quiero grande, medio de fresa con crema y medio Oreo. And then what do you want?
I am going to have an Oreo, all Oreo, all the time.
Blackberry.
Yeah, here's the tip on the ice cream if you're getting it there. They do run out, so if you want your Oreo or chocolate ice cream, you got to come earlier in the evening.
And that food court is just north of the bridge over the Isla on the Malecon, and they set up at night, almost every night, they set up food tents there that you can go eat at. And then the Plaza de Armas, that's hit or miss. That's, of course, right in front of the church. Sometimes they'll have events there, and sometimes it'll be quiet. And so those are some places that if you're new to Puerto Vallarta, you're staying more in the romantic zone as a tourist area, do venture north on the Malecon at night. It's a really great place, and it's a really great cultural experience. So living in our Vista house, which is further up the El Cerro hill, there's one thing that you need to know about, and this is something you need to know about too if you're ever booking an Airbnb here, is some houses are super high up. There's no way to get there via a road. You have to go up many, many steps.
Yeah, they might be 3 blocks from the Malecon, or 4 blocks from the Malecon, but that's up. So do check on that so that you know. And if you're fine with stairs, it's great, and you'll have a nice vista. But otherwise, if you're not, you may want to check.
Yeah, and that's the difference between our two houses in particular. Is our Arroyo house, or the Creek house, it's a very gradual hill up and you're there. Whereas our Vista house, this one, obviously, we're pretty high up from the Malecon. All right, back from a good night of food and festivities, the cultural stuff.
Yeah.
So now we're walking back to our Vista house.
Up the hill.
Up the hill. It's a long ways up. Still got a long way to go. Urban hiking, right?
Yep, urban hiking. Still going. Yep, still going. It's right about here. It's about here that I feel the lactic acid. All right. There's 5 more stories.
But that's one thing that actually does attract us to the area, is not only obviously that we have to get up to our house, but there's great up and down streets where, our neighbors put in a lot of effort in one of the streets in our neighborhood, and it's just really beautiful. And they've done some wonderful things here on Galeana, for instance. Look at all the tile work that they've placed in over time.
That's what inspired our wall.
Yes, that's inspired our wall in our house. So definitely on a little scavenger hunt, do check this out. This wonderful area here down in El Centro here in Puerto Vallarta.
There's cute little restaurants. There's Gabby's. There's a little French bistro. They're that are just on the kind of the bottom parts. They beat a lot of these little roads that just go upward. This is I think this is Iturbide, and this is actually a cool little place. We've eaten here. It's a little vegetarian, really well priced, and we haven't eaten so much here during the pandemic because it is a little buffet style, but super cute murals in there. And before the pandemic, we actually came here quite a bit, and it was just a nice little casual place to eat. You don't necessarily have to tackle them all in one day or evening. Just maybe one day, just go up one and down another block, and then go out to eat. All right, Stefan is running fast with pizza, but if you come down this road, this is Hidalgo, I think, in near Corona. This is my favorite street at night. I just love seeing the church.
It's all about noises and the different noises that you hear. When you're facing the water, at least in El Cerro, and I assume in other places too, but in El Cerro, the hill, it's much more densely packed. And so you hear a lot of different things. Obviously, roosters are commonplace. So
the chachalacas followed us.
Chachalacas.
They found a tree down here. Our good friend the chachalaca has returned. Yeah.
What's really interesting is in our Arroyo house, which is just as close to the church as our Vista house here. We don't hear the bells of the church hardly at all there. Whereas here, facing the water, we do. And what's really interesting is they have random bells at random times of the day, different bells too. But it'll be like, I don't know, 5:51 a.m. and you'll hear a bell.
Right. And also random booms, which normally we know the booms. Like occasionally the booms will come from the church, especially if they're in the morning. And usually booms at night are fireworks. Every night. We had one morning where we heard a big old boom, and we're like, we're like, okay, wait, I don't think there's a religious holiday anywhere around. But we just assumed it was coming from the church, and we heard it again, and we go out there. The pirate ship was out there at like 10,
firing at us.
It was like 10 in the morning, and I was like, it's usually 10 at night, so it was just kind of a funny.
Yeah, they must have had a special event. But that's one point, and one person mentioned this on our Facebook group. Right in front of our house here, the fireworks happen every night. So if you do have a dog that's really hesitant about, or just really, how would you say?
Has anxiety with noise.
Anxiety, yeah. Definitely, be careful of that, because there are fireworks every single night.
The sunrises are so much different. The other house, we watch the sunrises come up over the hill. Here, you watch the blanket of light come up as the sun comes over the hill and actually lights up the bay and the city, and then we see the big cruise ships coming in, and it's kind of interesting.
Sunsets are absolutely wonderful here. You don't have to have a house with a sunset view. You can go down to the water and really appreciate them. There's views all around the area that you can take in that. But that's one thing here on our Vista house, is you have the absolutely wonderful, ridiculously wonderful sunset. This is, I would say, one of the two best sunsets that I've ever seen in my life. And it happens every night. Yeah, the other one being Santorini in Greece. But it is just absolutely wonderful, and every sunset's different. So you'll end up with like lots and lots and lots of sunset pictures. One of the things, since this is a dense community and there are smaller places that people rent, on the water-facing side, there's more people that are moving in and out. And so if you are looking to buy a place here, for instance, just be aware that your neighbors may be really quiet and nice a 1 month, and then the next month you may have another person move in and they have a barking dog, or they like to listen to the music really loud, those sorts of things. So that's one thing to consider if you are looking to buy a house here or have a condo that's in a densely packed area.
Yeah, we went to go visit some friends that were up in a different part of Puerto Vallarta, up north, and was it Fluvial? And completely different vibe.
Yes.
Completely different. Quiet.
Yes.
It was just such a different
experience
feel during the daytime. So that's something else. Like I said, when you're here and you're exploring, just be for a moment and just listen. I mean, you can. Right now, I'm hearing a distant siren. I mean, there's just
it's city life.
Yeah, it's city life. Usually our dog that likes to bark the moment it hears my voice is not barking. So. It all varies. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, last night, Stefan and I were sitting at the Arroyo house, at the big house, and we're looking at the valley, and we're looking at actually more of the city view. Once again, we have different city views. But what was different about that was actually how the noise traveled. And it was a Saturday night, and it was like this really just, it was like looking at a painting that, when you look at a painting and you see like all these, you notice like all these different little pieces of the painting, and each time you look at it, it's a little different. This is what was happening to us on the auditory side. It was like you could hear the individual little parties, but it was just this collective, like really cool mosaic that was happening.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool about the Arroyo house is you basically are looking at other people. and you can like zoom in. Oh, there's a party happening over there, and you hear that little bit of noise. Kind of, it's not loud.
You're zooming in audio. You're not zooming in
but,
visual.
Well, you are sort of looking in that direction. It's like, oh, over here they're throwing a party, and over here they've got something going on, and so it's kind of like that city life mosaic, and it's pretty cool.
Moving back to the big house. The circle is complete. Iggy's still here. I heard a little scratching. Oh, there he goes. In the kitchen somewhere.
All right, now for the dusk version of Q&A. Actually, it's about 8:30 p.m. here, so it's a little bit dark outside.
And over there, that's what we were talking about, just sort of listening to what was happening all over there.
Yes.
It's still kind of, it's Sunday, it's a little quieter.
Anyway, so some Q&A here, and also too on the Q&A, we use that Facebook to capture that, and there's a lot of good answers that come in from a bunch of people. The Q&A that we're going to give now, this is just our experience and our opinions. Definitely do your own research on stuff like this. And
I would say, if y'all know the answer to the questions, answer it. Don't wait for for us to answer. We can speak to it if there's something different. But some of you guys actually may know the answer more than we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So answer it on either YouTube or Facebook especially, and I'm sure people would really enjoy this because these are coming from real people. So I think first question came from Dave, and he asked if he can be adopted.
Sorry. I've got enough things I'm caring for, so.
You don't want to be part of our family. No. You really don't. We live kind of a crazy lifestyle outside of Mexico. So anyway, but thanks for the question, Dave. Next up was Luisa. Phone numbers in dealing with moving to Mexico and maintaining a U.S. phone number. So what we do, and I think it's more expensive, but we're still up in the United States. So for those of you who don't know, we go back and forth monthly. So we have an AT&T phone plan that's great because you can use it in Mexico, United States, or Canada and dial anybody there, and it's the same amount, and also for data too, which is great. So I do know some people have mentioned Google Voice as a way to basically have a phone number in the U.S. to have like local number portability. So you take your home phone you currently have, potentially you can port it over to a voice over IP service. And so I think Google Voice is one, and there's many others. So do check those out. Any comments on that? I think,
I just want to make a comment. We just on actually getting a Mexican number, because we don't have a Mexican number yet. I really should just get an old phone and just go grab a SIM card at OXXO and actually just have a basic plan. The reason why is when you start up some of your utilities, whether it's internet or whatever, they ask for a local number. And it's a local cell number because that's how they're doing their verifications. So I've been kind of lucky. I've been using friends and kind of like, hey, they've been my verification number, but really we should have our own Mexican cell number. We have a Mexican landline number, but not a cell number.
Yeah,
so
I'm due for an upgrade on a phone, so maybe we'll use one of our old phones and stick in a SIM card from here. So good point. Next one came from Richard about anti-parasites. And I've heard that a couple times on the Facebook posts about people getting worried about coming down here and getting some parasite that, is an issue. We've traveled a lot. We've been to the Amazon, rainforest, all kinds of places that have been out and about, and have taken a lot of drugs in preparation for those. But really not here in Mexico. I know that you do have a risk of getting parasites, but we haven't dealt with it. And
been a couple people have had scabies.
Oh, yes. Scabies, yes.
That might be something if you ever come home and you've got a rash and you just can't get rid of that rash and it's like got little, I don't know, it might be that. So that's the only thing that I've heard of people sort of having, but that's more of a skin thing.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's ask your doctor if you need to do that.
The locals or the expats we know that we really haven't worried about that sort of stuff. Sometimes it's good to not over medicate in those situations. So again, our own opinion, we have not taken any medication for parasites.
Talk to your doctor.
Yes, exactly. So next up, Liz, traveling with pets, and what are the options of getting your pet down here. So we actually have a dog up in the States, and we have not traveled with her yet here. But we do know a lot of people that do travel with pets. And so there's several ways. I think gone are the days when you can get by with like a comfort pet animal. That I think is no more. You can pay to have a pet on some airlines. We fly Southwest typically, and they don't allow pets internationally.
Yeah,
so
domestically, yes. Internationally, no.
If you have like a bigger dog, I know that one of our neighbors' dog's name is, shout out to Elvis the hound dog, and he was a big dog, and so those cases you have to go, inside with the luggage, and I know that can be some traumatic for some folks. And I know that one time they were trying to fly up north, and there wasn't a whole lot of flights that could take the dog in that manner, and so that can be sometimes difficult if you're at the end of the season. And I know that some people, if they're coming down here more permanently, they just drive down. And I think some of the Facebook posts, people did that. They would drive down their larger pets from the United States.
And I would speak to your vet in terms of, well, and I don't know what all of the vaccination and all of those requirements are. I would imagine, kind of the usual, but yeah, you'll want to just make sure that you look that up, or talk to your vet. Especially, a lot of vets might be pretty comfortable, have been used to doing this before for other countries, so you can just ask them, and they might be able to help.
Absolutely. And then also too, the next question was from Deborah, traveling with cats. That's an interesting one. And the idea is you're worried about, the cat, because everything is open air, the cat getting out. I think that is a real challenge. And maybe, we don't have any cats, so I'd love to hear, some feedback from folks who do. But the reality is there's a lot of feral cats here, and there's a lot of semi-feral cats, and they go in and out, all the times people's houses. I know I was walking just on the street the other day, and someone was screaming. I think it was a child. I don't know what they had, but all of a sudden the scream happened, and then all these cats, I think there are 5 or 6 cats, jumped out of the roof and onto the street. So there's a lot of cats around, and like the Isla Quali, there at some point there's 100 of them, I think, or so, and I think they've adopted a lot of those out. So the challenge is if these cats, these feral or semi-feral cats, can get in, obviously your cat can get out. And so that's something I know that some people, you watch that very closely. And you may want to consider where you stay if you do bring down your cat. So that's all I can say there. Yeah. Again, we're not the experts on the topic, but just giving our experiences. All right, so the next question was from Monica about temporary visa and temporary residency. Well, there's a travel visa, and then you've got your temporary residency, and then permanent residency, right?
Yes, and then citizenship if you decide to go crazy.
So I am on one extreme, and Ada's on the other. And so it's interesting, for me, as you know, we go back and forth a lot between the U.S. and Mexico on a monthly basis. And so I'm still stuck on a travel visa, and I just go back and forth. I get 180 days every month. I get another one, and they haven't shortened those yet here. Some places I've heard they have. And so I just keep on re-upping that every time I fly in, and that works for me. Ada on the other extreme, with Ada's mom being from Mexico.
Yeah, so I come in as, I leave the country as a U.S. citizen. I enter Mexico as a Mexican citizen. And then I leave Mexico as a Mexican citizen, and I enter the U.S. as a U.S. citizen. So having the dual citizenship, that's what I do there. Now, when we come in, when we're going through immigration on the front end into Mexico, it's a really short line. If you do have your temporary visa, not the travel visa, but the temporary visa or a permanent visa or a citizen. So since I have
residency, yes.
Residency,
yeah.
Sorry. So since he's my husband, I can take him with me into the short line. And so that's, once again, we haven't had to necessarily speed up the process any other place, because truly you're traveling as a tourist. And so, I mean, I think where people got a lot of those shortened was when they were staying here for like 175 days. And
actually not going back and then coming back again.
And that's not the case. We are literally using it as a tourist visa back and forth. So, so anyways, there is a process, and some people who have gone ahead there is a way to actually skip to the permanent residency, and that has to do with, you know, I think both processes have to do with showing some sort of, you know, where your income is coming from or investments. But the permanent, I think, can be fast-tracked for those who are retired.
Right, exactly. And so I think, you know, from that standpoint, from what I can, you know, from our overall experience, and again, this is very high level because we're not into this right now, but for temporary residency and permanent residency, what it boils down to is, do you have enough funds in order for you to stay in country, and then have to go through the paperwork to, you know, to make that happen. And so there's plenty of resources out there about that, you know, for yourself. But it really comes down is do you qualify? Yep. And so that's it. So that's all we can tell you at this point. I'm sure when I go through my temporary permanent residency, we'll do a video on that at some point.
Yeah, and he can actually fast track his permanent, even though he's working, because he's married to me.
Yes.
So a Mexican citizen. So there is a way to fast track that as well.
Yep.
And then Lisa asked, do we still have our original home that sort of started this thing all? And judging from the start of this video, you know, the answer is yes, very much so. We have no plans to let go of that. That is our home. They're both our homes. We use them both.
We are keeping both of our houses for that flexibility as to what we do in the future.
Right. And then finally, because we're almost running out of
light here,
Jose asked, how do you keep our pool maintained? And actually, we have a jacuzzi at the first house, and we have like a small pool at this house. And the jacuzzi is small enough to where we just drain it and clean it
and go.
And, you know, we just like you would a jacuzzi, which makes it really nice because we don't have to worry about, you know, constant maintenance. And that's what's enabled us for the other house. When we had to stay away for several months because of COVID, we didn't have to worry about anything there.
Right.
For this house, we have a pool guy who comes in twice a week, and he does the pool guy thing. So I've never had a pool in my life, so I trust him.
Relatively inexpensive, but you do have to shop around, and you need to get referrals for people, and really quite, you know, inexpensive to maintain your pool down here. One point of note: if you are buying a place and you want to determine what type of pool or hot tub to get, we have a small hot tub that's fiberglass, and it's much easier to maintain in this environment because our larger house with a small pool that has a tile. And in the heat, the tiles pop up all the time. And so there's a lot more maintenance on tile if you choose to go that route. So if you're trying to do something simple, go with the fiberglass one, drain it when you're done, and go that route, especially if you're not here year round.
Yep. And on that note,
it's getting dark.
It's getting dark. So I think it's time for us to go. So make sure to like, subscribe, join our Facebook group if you haven't already, and stay tuned. We'll definitely, in June, we'll try to have a meetup somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't have any dates yet, so but yeah, stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Follow us on the Facebook group for the meetups, and thanks for continuing to watch our journey of life here, and love hearing your journeys as well. So thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great day.